Have you ever loved someone so deeply that you truly believed they would never turn their back on you? Madison Carter once did. A brilliant scientist, a devoted wife, and the co-founder of the most innovative pharmaceutical company in America. Alongside her husband, Lucas Hayes, sole heir to the Hayes biopharma empire. They weren't just a power couple in the medical world. They were the embodiment of love and intelligence. On magazine covers, they were always the golden couple. But no one knew that, in just one night, everything Madison believed in would collapse like a sandcastle. That day, Madison stepped out of the bathroom after a long day working in the lab. She smiled when she saw Lucas sitting on the edge of the bed, but the smile vanished the moment she saw her phone in his hand. On the screen were messages, intimate, affectionate exchanges with a man named Ryan, flirtatious messages, romantic plans, sensitive details, messages Madison had never written with a man she had never even met. "Who is Ryan?" Lucas asked, his voice low and dangerous, like someone trying to keep an explosion in check. Madison froze. "I don't know anyone named Ryan." "Don't lie to me," Lucas growled. "I hired a private investigator. The messages, hotel receipts, and this." He threw a man's watch and a hotel keycard onto the bed, both pulled from her handbag. "Lucas, someone's setting me up, I swear." She didn't have time to react before the bedroom door burst open. Brian, Lucas's college friend and now the company's CFO, walked in like it had all been rehearsed. "Security found these in her car," Brian said, not even looking at her. Lucas didn't need to hear another word. He turned away, shoulders tense. "Get out of my house, now." Madison was stunned. "Lucas, I'm your wife. You're kicking me out even though I've done nothing wrong?" "You're not my wife anymore," he said coldly. "Brian, handle the divorce papers. Tonight." 10 minutes later, Madison, still in her pajamas, tears not yet dried, was escorted out of her own mansion by security. Standing in the light drizzle, she watched her suitcase get thrown into the trunk like garbage. Her bank accounts were frozen. Her company email locked. She, the co-founder, was erased from the system overnight. What Madison didn't know was, this was only the beginning. Since their wedding, Madison and Alexander Grant were once seen as the ideal couple of American high society. He was the only son of the founder of Grant Biomedical, one of the largest private pharmaceutical firms on the East Coast. She, Madison Hale, was a brilliant biochemist, celebrated in numerous scientific journals for her research that had saved thousands of late-stage cancer patients. They were the perfect couple. Until one night, when everything unraveled in just a few minutes. That day, Madison had just returned from a medical conference in Chicago. She walked into their home with joyful anticipation, bringing great news. An international research project she led had just secured a $40 million grant from the Global Health Fund. Not only did it affirm her talent, but it opened the door to revolutionary change in cancer treatment. She wanted to tell Alexander immediately. But when she entered the bedroom, the first thing she saw wasn't the smile of her beloved husband. It was his stone-cold face, holding her phone in his hand. "Madison," he said in an even tone, "how long were you planning to hide this from me?" She froze. "What?" Alexander held the screen in front of her. Messages clearly displayed, intimate words, romantic plans, and sensitive exchanges between Madison and a man named Mark. She was speechless. "You think I cheated?" Madison choked out. "But I've never texted this person. I don't even know any Mark." "Stop acting." Alexander's voice was chillingly cold. "The entire company knows. Julian, the head of security, he uncovered everything. The messages, the emails, even the hotel receipts." Madison snatched the phone from his hand, her heart pounding wildly. The messages, they appeared to come from her account, but every word, every sentence was unfamiliar. She had never written any of this. And they just happened to appear during her business trips? Her mind reeled. A trap. Someone had set her up. "Alexander, I didn't write these. You know me. I would never." "Then what about this?" He threw a man's watch and a hotel key onto the bed. "I've never seen these before," she cried, unraveling. He wasn't listening. He didn't want to listen. The eyes that once looked at her with love were now filled with disgust and contempt. He turned away, his voice like ice. "Madison Hale, you are no longer my wife." Minutes later, she was dragged out of the mansion by security staff. No coat, no purse, no shoes. She stood in the biting cold night air, hands trembling, stomach twisting, from fear, and from a secret she hadn't yet had the chance to tell her husband. She was pregnant. Madison sat in her car under the harsh lights of a 24-hour supermarket parking lot. Tears streamed down her cheeks as her phone flashed notification after notification. Bank accounts frozen, company email access revoked, credit cards declined. On the passenger seat lay a small personal bag, tossed in by her home's security staff less than an hour ago. Madison had nothing left but pain and a positive pregnancy test. She had just been thrown out of her own home by her husband, Alexander Grant, one of the most powerful men in the pharmaceutical industry in America. All based on fabricated evidence, fake messages, staged photos, a hotel keycard, an unfamiliar man's watch, all discovered with suspicious perfection. But what haunted Madison more than Alexander's betrayal was the cold, expressionless face of his close friend, Nicholas Burns, who stood by silently as she was dragged away, not saying a word. Freezing, exhausted, and pregnant, Madison quietly left the supermarket after buying some cheap food and a bottle of water. She had nowhere to go. All her close friends belonged to high society, the same elite circles tightly controlled by Alexander. Madison had no one left. But at the very moment when it seemed like everything had collapsed, a fateful encounter changed the course of her life. Mrs. Helen Monroe, a woman in her 60s who owned a small convenience store in the suburbs, was the first person to look at Madison with genuine compassion. "You look like someone who needs help," she said after seeing Madison vomiting beside her car. "If you don't have a place to stay, I have a spare room. It's not much, but it's enough for someone to rest." Madison, who once lived in a 3-story mansion in Beverly Hills, now sat in an old bedroom with peeling wallpaper, cradling her pregnant belly and a cup of warm tea made by Mrs. Helen. No one asked about her past. No one doubted her. And it was in that silence that Madison began to recall every detail from the past few months. The sudden arguments, Nicholas appearing every time she and Alexander fought, the lingering stares, the subtle comments about something going on behind your back. Back then, she never imagined she was being set up. But now it was crystal clear. Nicholas and his sister, Valerie Burns, had quietly dismantled everything she and Alexander had built over the years. Why? Madison didn't yet have the answer. But she knew one thing: she couldn't sit still. As her pregnancy advanced, Madison began spending every night in Helen's guest room documenting everything. Dates, phone calls, suspicious behavior. She drew relationship maps, reviewed emails, backed up her old research files. Very quickly, the picture became clear. Nicholas wasn't just behind the fabricated affair. He was also manipulating the financial system and drug testing protocols at Grant Pharmaceuticals, where Madison had once led a Phase 3 cancer research team. One morning at an internet cafe, Madison overheard 2 researchers talking. "The clinical data's been altered. The side effect rates are way higher than what was published. And the final sign-off? Nicholas Burns." Madison sat bolt upright. The final pieces clicked into place. It was because she had been getting close to uncovering a major violation that Nicholas had worked to eliminate her from both her personal and professional life. Now, Madison understood, and she was ready to act. When Madison gave birth to twins, 2 little angels named Aiva and Noah, there were no family members by her side, no luxury hospital suite, no one waiting outside the delivery room. But in the eyes of those 2 babies, she saw an entire universe. They saved her from the abyss, pulled her from the darkness of pain and betrayal. She stepped into a completely new life. Eleanor, the elderly woman who had taken her in, remained her anchor, helping care for the children so Madison could return to research. But where? No one would hire a woman branded as an adulteress, pregnant, and publicly cast out by Alexander Grant. No lab would accept her. No institution would listen to her. So Madison did something crazy. She started from a garage, an old one Eleanor had converted into a makeshift lab. By day, she was a mother. By night, she became a scientist again, with no assistants, no funding, and no one who believed in her. Just sheer determination and a quiet fire burning inside her. Then came an unexpected opportunity. A community doctor named Dr. Rachel Torres, who had once admired Madison's work before the scandal, stumbled upon one of her unfinished research papers. Torres came in person carrying a proposition. "I have a lab. I have funding. I need someone who cares more about patients than profits. Are you ready to start over? Madison could hardly believe what she was hearing. After months of being discarded and vilified, someone was finally choosing to believe her. At Torres's farm, inside a barn converted into a modern lab, Madison resumed work on her abandoned cancer project. No shareholder pressure, no padded reports, just pure science and a dream to create a cancer treatment that didn't devastate the patient's body the way Grant Pharmaceuticals had failed to, or intentionally neglected. Then, on a spring night, as Ava and Noah slept peacefully in the corner of the lab, Madison made a breakthrough. A new compound, not only effective against tumors but with an incredibly low side effect index. You need to file a patent immediately, Torres said, eyes gleaming. But not under the name Madison Grant, under your real name, Madison Carter. That name, Carter, the maiden name she had tucked away for so many years, now rang out like a bell calling her home. No longer Alexander Grant's shadow, no longer the discarded wife, but her true self, a woman once buried alive, now risen to claim her place at the top. Have you ever hit rock bottom? What would you do? Suffer in silence or rise up and build a kingdom out of your pain? Leave a comment below. I truly want to hear your thoughts. Madison's achievement wasn't just a medical breakthrough. It was her third child. Not of blood, but of every ounce of effort and tears she had ever buried deep inside. With legal and financial support from Dr. Rachel Torres, her co-founder, her partner, and the only person besides Eleanor who ever saw Madison's true potential, they registered the patent under a brand new name, Orion Biotech. Orion, a star burning bright in the darkness, a name symbolizing hope and strength. The beginnings were humble, but the direction was clear. No flashy marketing, no media blitz. Orion began by partnering with community clinics, conducting clinical trials in small hospitals, places where patients were human beings, not numbers. And soon, rumors began to spread. A new cancer drug with fewer side effects, outperforming every competitor. A mysterious research group. No one knew their faces, no one knew their names. The medical community took notice. Investors began to lean in. Meanwhile, across the boardroom table at Grant Pharmaceuticals, the empire Alexander Grant still ran with pride. The cracks began to show. A major hospital chain suddenly announced it would stop ordering from Grant. The reason? Side effects failed to meet standards, and another name had appeared on the bidding documents, Orion Biotech. In a tense internal meeting, Alexander slammed the report on the table, his eyes blazing. Who the hell is Orion? Why have we never heard of them and just lost a $30 million contract to them? No one could answer. But Julian, Alexander's newly promoted right-hand man, had a sinking feeling. He knew, only someone who had worked deep inside the system, who knew every link in the chain, could strike this precisely. And he was right. Madison never intended to stay hidden forever. After the drug received official FDA approval, she stepped into the light. Under the name Madison Carter, founder of Orion Biotech, she began giving professional interviews. No talk of her past, no mention of her ex-husband, only one mission, healing. But the world doesn't forget so easily. The first article from a small medical journal revealed Madison Carter was once the wife of Alexander Grant, the woman falsely accused of infidelity and who vanished mysteriously from the pharmaceutical world 6 years earlier. The media firestorm exploded. Social media shared photos of Madison in the lab, holding her children, eyes sunken from sleepless nights, starkly contrasted with Alexander's cold, polished image at shareholder meetings. Grant Pharmaceuticals scrambled to respond. But every denial only fueled the public's hunger for truth. Why was Madison cast out of the industry? Who orchestrated the smear campaign? And now, with the truth exposed, who was really to blame? Alexander sat in his office, watching the news ticker scroll across the screen. Orion Biotech officially overtakes Grant Pharmaceuticals in the European market. His face turned pale. He couldn't believe it, couldn't fathom that the woman he had thrown out of his life with nothing, now held in her hands the very key that could unravel the empire he had spent years building. And this was only the beginning. Do you think Madison should stop now and forgive or keep going until the very end? If you were her, what would you do? Comment below and let us know. That afternoon, in a quiet estate on the outskirts of Connecticut, a helicopter slowly descended onto a grass-covered helipad. Unlike the thunderous rotors that once disrupted Alexander's wedding, This landing was calm, intentional. Madison stepped out, accompanied by her 2 children, Jaden and Lily, now older, articulate and composed, molded by the strength of their mother. "Is this his house?" Jaden asked, eyes flickering between curiosity and caution. "It is," Madison nodded. "But we're not here to take anything back. We're here to bring closure." The large gates opened. The one who greeted them wasn't a butler or a bodyguard. It was Richard Grant, Alexander's father. He had quietly followed every step Madison had taken over the years. "They look just like him when he was young," he murmured, eyes fixed on Jaden and Lily. "They don't need genetics to know who they are," Madison replied calmly. "But they do need to look into their father's eyes just once, to know they weren't something left behind." The living room inside the mansion was cold and still. Alexander sat there in a tailored suit, but the presence he once carried was gone. Even the arrogance in his eyes had been replaced with defeat. Madison said nothing. She simply placed a folder in front of him. "This is the DNA test result," she said, her voice steady. "Proof of what I tried to tell you 6 years ago." Alexander opened the folder. One line stood out. Jaden Carter Grant, 99.99% genetic match. His hands trembled. You were really pregnant?" he asked, his voice breaking, as if he were only now facing the reality he had long denied. "Yes, but you chose to believe what others orchestrated instead of believing in me," Madison replied, not bitter, not angry. "I didn't come back for personal justice. I came back so the kids could see their father, flesh and blood, just once." Jaden stepped forward and handed Alexander a drawing. A family of 3, Madison, Jaden and Lily, hand in hand under a starry sky. "I made this for science class." The teacher asked, "Where's your dad?" I didn't know what to say, but now I do. Alexander bowed his head. He didn't cry, but his eyes were wet. Silence filled the room. Madison turned to Richard Grant. "I won't press charges. If Alexander steps down from the executive board and hands control over to an independent board of directors." "You could destroy this company," Richard said softly. "I could. But I didn't come here to destroy," Madison replied. "I came to set us free, me, the kids, and the patients who deserve to know the drug they're taking is safe." Richard looked at her for a long moment, then slowly nodded. Alexander sighed. I don't even know how to apologize." "You don't need to apologize to me," Madison said, eyes resting on the 2 children. "Just don't make them grow up with the pain you once caused. Give them something to be proud of, instead of something to heal from." Alexander stepped forward, kneeling in front of Lily, trembling. "I didn't know. I truly didn't know. If I could go back." "No one can go back," Madison cut in, gently but firmly. "We can only move forward." The atmosphere in the room felt like a summer rain, heavy, soaking, but cleansing. The truth had been revealed. The guilt had been named. And most importantly, no one had to hide anymore. Do you think Madison did the right thing? Should she have forgiven him? Or should Alexander have paid a heavier price? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts. That morning, Madison's modern home was bathed in sunlight. The kitchen was the warmest place, filled with the sounds of coffee brewing, the joyful giggles of her children as Jaden attempted to make pancakes and spilled batter all over the counter. Madison watched the scene, ordinary, peaceful, and incredibly real. She smiled, though deep inside her, a swirl of emotions lingered, waiting to surface. Last night, Alexander had left in silence. No pleading, no blame, but the look in his eyes when he met Jaden and Lily for the first time, it was quiet, like someone seeing a door that had once slammed shut, now slightly ajar. After breakfast, Madison dropped the kids off at school. When she returned, the person waiting on her front porch wasn't Alexander, it was someone else. Ethan Shaw. Ethan, the man who helped her build the data system for Phoenix Biosolutions. A clinical doctor, sharp-minded, a little stubborn, but so steady in his calmness that Madison always felt safe around him. He knew her story. He'd known about Jaden and Lily since the very beginning. But Ethan had never once crossed a line. "I heard you crashed your ex's wedding," Ethan said with a half-smile, handing her the Friday morning smoothie he always made. "I didn't crash it. I was invited. By the truth," Madison replied, a mix of playfulness and resignation in her tone. They sat together in silence for a few minutes. Madison looked at Ethan. He was the same, clear-eyed, shirt slightly wrinkled from his overnight hospital shift, his voice steady like background music that anchored her. "Aren't you going to ask me anything?" she said. "I will, but only if you're ready, and if you're not, I'll still sit here," he replied. That patience. It had been her anchor for 3 years. No noise, no conditions, no invasion. "Ethan, I'm standing at a crossroads," she said quietly. "One side is the man who made me lose everything and now stands there asking to be let back in. The other is the man who quietly helped me rebuild from ashes. But I don't know if I have anything left to give." Ethan was silent for a moment, then set down his cup. "You don't have to choose right now. I'm not here to demand anything," he said gently. "Just know, if there's a door you want to walk through, I'm ready to walk through it with you." A notification popped up on Madison's phone. Victor Pharmaceuticals had sent a partnership proposal to Phoenix Biosolutions, a major turning point. But even more significant, the first name listed in the attached proposal, Alexander Grant, and beneath it, a note. "With utmost respect and gratitude to Madison Carter, the woman who saved this industry from its own corruption." Madison didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was the recognition she had never expected, but absolutely deserved. And for the first time, her heart felt a little lighter. Not because Alexander was changing, but because she was no longer chained to the anger of the past. That afternoon, when Jaden and Lily returned home, they chattered away about their school day, then asked, "Mom, if Dad wants to come watch our swim meet next week, is that okay?" Madison didn't answer right away. She looked at her children and saw the innocence in their eyes. No resentment, no expectations. They just wanted to be loved, fully. She leaned down, brushed Lily's hair, and nodded. "If he comes, then swim your best, sweetheart. Show him how much you've grown." That night, she reopened an old folder on her computer, notes from the early days when she slept in the back seat of her car. Scribbled words, "Tomorrow will be different. Just get through today." Now tomorrow had come. What do you think? Should Madison allow Alexander back into her children's lives? If it were you, could you forgive? Share your thoughts in the comments. 1 week later, Madison stood before the largest conference hall at the International Medical Summit in Geneva. Outside, her name lit up boldly on the event board. Madison Carter, CEO, Phoenix Biosolutions, keynote speaker, the future of human-centered medicine. 3 years ago, she had fallen into complete darkness, homeless, nameless, and with no one who believed her. Today, she stepped onto a stage in front of hundreds of the world's leading scientists, entrepreneurs, and medical experts. Her speech wasn't just about medicine, it was about resilience, dignity, and rebirth. As the applause echoed through the hall, Madison stepped down from the stage. Waiting for her below was Ethan, his gaze as warm and steady as ever. Beside him stood Jaden and Lily, clutching souvenirs from the conference. Alexander was there too, standing a little farther back, quietly. In his hands was the latest report from Victor Pharmaceuticals, now a strategic partner of Phoenix. He said nothing, only gave a small nod, a silent acknowledgement that he was no longer the center of this story. Madison and the children were the ones who had stepped into the light. Lily ran up and tugged at Madison's hand. "Mom, our teacher said we have to bring a special photo to tell the story of our family next week. I chose this one." She held out a picture taken in the flower garden on Jaden's birthday. In it were Madison, Ethan, the 2 children, and even Alexander. "I call it a family with a big heart," Lily said. Madison was speechless. No one in that photo was perfect, no one without flaws. But they were all trying. They were present for the children. A family that didn't follow traditional patterns, but one undeniable truth remained: love that transcends pain. That night, after the children had gone to bed, Madison stepped out onto the balcony. Ethan joined her, holding 2 cups of ginger tea. "What are you planning to say to the investors tomorrow?" he asked gently. She smiled. "I'll tell them we're not just building a company, we're building a healing ecosystem, not just for the human body but for the wounds inside us too." "Now that sounds like Madison Carter," Ethan smiled. She turned to him, voice soft but certain. "Ethan, if you're still willing, I'd like to try this with you." He said nothing. He simply squeezed her hand, quietly. It was enough. A year later, Jaden and Lily appeared in a short video played at the United Nations Summit on Medical Technology. Their little voices rang out. "We're proud of our mom. She taught us that being strong doesn't mean never getting hurt. It means standing up, even when you're hurting. Thousands stood in applause as Madison stepped onto the stage. She was no longer a victim of betrayal. No longer someone discarded. She was living proof of one simple, powerful truth. Sometimes, the strongest revenge isn't making someone fall. It's rising so high they can never touch you again. Have you ever been betrayed, misjudged, or pushed out of someone's life? What would you do? Forgive? Get revenge? Or carve a new path so brilliant it proves you were never weak? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe in rebirth through pain, share this story. Madison's journey isn't just about betrayal or revenge. It's about a woman who was pushed to the edge. And instead of breaking, she rose, stronger than ever. She didn't win by fighting back. She won by building a life no one could take away. And what about you? If someone erased you from their life without mercy, how would you respond? Forgive? Stay silent? Or create a version of yourself so successful they'd regret it forever? Leave your thoughts below. If you believe the greatest rebirth begins in the deepest pain, share this video to inspire someone else. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another story, where justice, resilience, and love always find their way back. See you in the next video. Bugmak.